And we're using a stain blocker primer from Sherwin-Williams. Pro Block primer, it's what they call it. It's oil based. Smells really bad. That's why I'm wearing one of these respirator type things with a charcoal filter in it. I'm not sure it works all that good because it still smells an awful lot. But anyway, what we're doing now is I'm using a brush. Move it over here when I have to walk around the table so I don't knock it off. We're using a brush to cut in this little edge. It's a little bit, well, if you roll it, it doesn't cover with a dang. So I'm just trying to get this 1/8 inch edge and then to kind of cut it in about a 1/2 inch away. And this paint dries really fast, so it's hard to work with. I actually like slow drying stuff. So basically once you start, you can't stop in the middle, otherwise it's going to look terrible. I'm using one of these really low profile rollers and just kind of rolling it on. Doesn't hold very much paint, but it doesn't leave a lot of nap roller marks and stuff like that. So we're trying to, and I'm doing it right now just the back of the door. But later on I got to turn it over and I'm going to probably be spraying that. The back, just rolling. And getting the edge here a little bit. Trying to keep the paint from rolling off the edge. So that's why I kind of dipped it around like that. And I'm going to move this out of the way, because I'm going to have to be walking around it. Now I'm doing the side, or actually the edge. I'm using kind of a dry roller now because I don't want to leave a big glob of paint on the other side. And I kind of go back over the edges. Any of the runs or rolls or splatters, it splattered. So I'm just doing it really lightly now. And then drop this in the rolling pan. Now I went ahead and decided to go ahead and prime the drawers. Dip the roller in the paint. Then I do the face of the drawer. I'm going to watch out because it's usually loaded pretty well. So I don't want it dripping all over the place. Then I hit the little edge, which this thing actually gets in all the way on it. I didn't think it was going to do that, but it does. And then the other side. Then I come by and get the edge. And you want to have a dry roller at this time, because you don't want it dripping down the inside. What I mean by dry, I mean I already used the paint up on the face. And I turn it sideways so I can get the bottom edge. Now I'm kind of doing like this, so I'm not catching the paint on the edge. I want to go this way on the edge and this way on this edge. If I go the other way, I'm going to get a big glob of paint coming off. And then I'm going to finish it off by just going again across the face. Because if you don't, sometimes you get a big glob of paint rolling off this edge that you already did. And I'm just getting all the corners. And the areas by the shelves. a lot of paint on this when I first pull it out of here, so I want to use up some of the paint. The big area here. And then I go for the edges. You hit the shelf like I did, gotta make sure you wipe it off. There was no reason for me to hit it, I just got lazy. And on to the next spot. Like this over here. I think I did that before. No, one time for it. If I wanted to take the bottom of this up, then I could. You gotta go water. I'm just gonna do it like this. These little holes don't hold my paint. And I'll just splatter. The top bottom, fine. Maybe we're going to have this edge hand. Boy, this stuff smells bad. That's enough cutting in. Mainly what I do is try to get rid of all these little lines from the roller when I'm done. Don't worry about it too much at first. Want to get the paint on there. Now that I got the paint on, I'm just going to gently, softly roll up and down. Just really lightly. Try to get rid of all the marks. And you be careful on the edge, you don't get a bleed over, a run over on the other side. And I got most of the kitchen cut in. You know, roll the little bit I had to do. There's a couple of cut-in spots I got to do around here that I missed. And I went ahead and cut in on the bottom of the cabinet that I was working on before, just a few minutes ago. Already cleaned my brush, otherwise I would have went ahead and did that. But I still have to do these cabinets right here, and I have to do some bathroom cabinets right there. So I have more work to do the next time, but the paint fumes are building up. Been here a few hours. I got a little caulking to do, I can see. Right here. And some right here and along that edge. But I'll take care of that later. Well, we're going to do the other side. I just carried it off from the rack and brought it over here. And the first thing I'm going to do is pull my mask off so I can talk to you. Second thing is dip the paintbrush into the paint and get this inside edge, which would be hard to get with a roller, and most likely there'd be a lot of misses and stuff, so just hit it with the brush. It doesn't have to be perfect because your roller is going to kind of go back over it in a few seconds. Put that aside. And you want to just put the paint on pretty thick. See, a couple of dips on the face here. And kind of work it in. You want to try to cover all the surfaces. And you don't have to worry about any real marks yet because we're going to go over it again. And now I'm going to go around this edge here, hold the roller at like a 45. And you might get a couple of drips like that one. Don't worry too much. Just kind of zip around. And after I've zipped around, and I really lightly, I'm barely touching it. I'm trying to get rid of a lot of the marks, drips, anything, the roller marks, anything I can. And just like the other side, I kind of like to just kind of dip a little bit on. Don't really worry about a drip because we can hit it again, and we probably will, and we usually always do. And now when the roll the face, what you want to worry about is paint running down that edge into it. Don't worry too much about the outside edge because we're still going to do that in a second. Some of the paint's going to sling off the metal handle or catch inside the roller and drip out. Once I've gone over that, I kind of want to really lightly look for any runs on the inside edge, which like that one was. And then really lightly go over it. I got a little thing right here too, hit that. Now I'm going to hit the face one more time real lightly. And in theory, I'm not going to be hitting this anymore. I got a little drip right there, kind of get some of that out. Maybe a little bit there. Kind of go around the outside edge again. Now we're going to hit the roller at a 45 or whatever angle we need to get this edge. And you've got to be careful. You don't want to have a lot of paint on it because you don't want it to drip down the other edge. This edge over here that's already done from the other day. So you want the roller to be fairly dry. If per chance you need a little more paint, stick it on the screen and don't dip it. Just get some off of the screen because there will be enough on there to do it. So if the roller, use a different part of it, whatever you got to do. Now if by chance you do drip some on there, just run your roller over and pick it up. Now ready to transfer it back over to the stand. Now you need to be really extremely careful picking these up. You don't want to slide them because they might scratch on the ladder. I use a couple of blocks because they don't seem to move too much, pieces of wood. And you make sure you don't catch them on the edge. You just want to get them in the face. The only difference is they'll slide. Actually, we're going to do this side, so you don't want to catch them on this edge. You want it to be on this part here so they don't rock as you're trying to work on them. And if they do rock, just lift it up, move them to where you got to, and put it back down. Get your little brush out again. Hit the inside edge. I'm not painting the whole thing, I'm just painting that little tiny edge that's hard to get. And you can use quite a lot of paint, you don't have to worry too much because you're going to be rolling it and you'll pick up whatever you don't use. Again, put the paint on fairly thick on this face. Dip it a couple of times if you need to. All depends on the size of the door, how many times you need to dip it. But you want to make sure you have enough paint to cover it easily. Zip around this little edge here to get that. This is the same roller I used the other day. I just cleaned it, a little bit of mineral spirits, threw it in a bucket of water, spun it out with the garden hose, and then about a half hour before I used it again, I spun it out again to get most of the water out of it, and then let it just kind of dry in the wind on the way to the job. Did the same thing with the brush, cleaned it out, threw it in some water, and then after cleaning it out with the mineral spirits, then the water, let it soak for a day while I was, taking the day off or whatever. And I pulled it out of the water and stuck a rag around it. That way it keeps the bristles from going fish eyeing or going all kinds of weird directions. Edge. This one I'll kind of get in the way of the camera. Now I've been rolling, changing different spots on the roller here, wherever I need enough paint. Now I'm going to look for anything weird, like this little guy right here. Now sometimes you end up with not much paint right at the edge, and you can't really get it. The more you pull with it, the worse it becomes. So as long as it has some on there, I'm not too concerned. And really lightly. Over to the rack. Well, I finished priming the rest of the cabinets. Rolled the sides also, just did them the same way. And I got the bathroom vanity done. It's all primed. Then I went ahead and caulked around the edges of stuff. Some of these, there was a gap here, there was a gap down there, a gap right here, a gap at the corner all the way up, and there was a gap right here, and a gap at the corner there. And these I already caulked the other day, and I caulked this one here just a little while ago also. Now we're basically painting the drawers just the same as we did before. Now we're actually using the paint. It's a water-based paint, so that's a good thing. I don't have to wear my respirator anymore. I hated wearing them. And I'm just kind of doing the same thing. Roll the face, roll the edge at a 45, come back around, roll the edge with an almost dry roller. So I don't get too much, any on the face. I don't want to get any over there. And then the bottom. And then really lightly across the face again to try to get any roller marks off. Now you can still see some roller marks, but most of these will shrink way up and almost completely disappear. And here's one that I've already done, and as you can see, there's nothing really noticeable. It almost looks like a real fine orange peel. And this is back to doing the doors again. And I got it up on a piece of wood. And of course I just literally just brush a thin coat of paint on the edge, just like I was priming. So you want to have not much paint on a drawer, but because these doors, they actually lay flat, paint gravity is going to help lay the texture down. Plus you have a lot of edges. As I'm going around like this, if my roller is starting to get a little bit dry, I can get a little more paint out of here. Finish it off. Now around the edges. And back across the faces again, really light. I'm fairly, I mean, just as light as I can get this roller on here. And then there we go. Now we're doing a couple of cabinets that are green. Slight yellowish green. Just do them the same way. I'm using a tray this time only because I'm going to dirty up a bucket this late in the day. It's getting dark. So I got to just burn through a couple of these green cabinets. Sometimes it's better just to roll in the same direction, especially when you're doing this light coat.